Napoleon Bonaparte had escaped exile. He had rebuilt an army. He had one last chance to reclaim Europe. And he lost it because of one decision. This isn't the story of a battle. It's the story of a delay that destroyed an empire. In June 1815, all of Europe holds its breath. Napoleon has returned from his exile on the island of Elba, and the monarchies that had just defeated him are thrown into a panic. Kings scramble, diplomats argue, and armies begin to mobilize. The Seventh Coalition, a grand alliance of Britain, Prussia, Russia, and Austria, is forming to stop him once and for all. But Napoleon is faster. He knows he can't fight them all at once. His only hope is to strike quickly, to divide his enemies and defeat them one by one. If Napoleon can win just one decisive battle against the forces already gathering on his border, he might shatter the coalition's resolve. He survives. If he loses, it's over. There will be no second chances. That one single, decisive battle would be fought near a small, unremarkable village in what is now Belgium, a place called Waterloo. Contrary to what you might think, Napoleon is not desperate. He is confident, perhaps even arrogant. He's facing two armies, a British-led allied force under the Duke of Wellington and a Prussian army under Marshal Blucher. His strategy is simple and brilliant. Get between them, keep them separated, and destroy each one before they can unite. And at first, it works. He pushes the Prussians back at the Battle of Ligny just 2 days before Waterloo. He is now poised to crush Wellington's army. His own army is filled with hardened veterans, men who had followed him across Europe and back. His commanders are some of the most famous names of the era. And his enemies, Britain and Prussia, are not yet fully united on the battlefield. For once, in this final, high-stakes gamble, Napoleon has a narrow window of opportunity, and he holds the initiative. The fate of the continent rests on his next move. He isn't doomed yet. He's in control. But then, something happens that Napoleon can't command. The weather. The night before the battle, a torrential thunderstorm breaks over the fields of Waterloo. Heavy rain falls for hours, turning the entire battlefield into a thick, soupy mud. When dawn breaks on June 18th, the ground is a quagmire. Napoleon inspects the terrain and worries. He's a master of artillery, the god of war, as he called it. He relies on his cannons to shatter enemy formations before his infantry and cavalry attack. But in this mud, the cannonballs won't bounce. They'll just sink, losing their deadly effect. His heavy cavalry would struggle to charge, and his soldiers would be exhausted just marching through the muck, so he makes a choice. A choice that, in hindsight, would seal his fate. He delays the attack. Instead of striking Wellington's forces early in the morning, around 6 or 7 a.m., when the element of surprise is greatest, Napoleon waits. He waits for the ground to dry. He waits and waits. The planned morning assault is postponed until late morning, finally beginning around 11:30 a.m. Every tick of the clock is an advantage squandered. On the surface, the delay seems reasonable, a sound military calculation from a commander known for his tactical genius. Better to wait for optimal conditions for his artillery than to attack at a disadvantage, right? But war doesn't forgive hesitation. War is a race against time, and at Waterloo, time was Napoleon's most precious and most underestimated enemy. Every single hour that Napoleon waits, the defeated but not destroyed Prussian army is marching. They are marching desperately to come to Wellington's aid. Napoleon knows this. He has dispatched a third of his army under Marshal Grouchy to pursue the Prussians and keep them from reaching Waterloo. He believes his orders are clear and that Grouchy can hold them off. This is the core of his fatal mistake. He assumes his plan will work perfectly. He underestimates the speed and determination of the Prussians, and he overestimates his own ability to control events that are happening miles away. He thinks he's just waiting for the sun to dry the mud. In reality, he's waiting for his doom to arrive. When the battle finally begins, it is a brutal, bloody affair. Napoleon throws his forces against Wellington's lines, which are holding a strong defensive position along a ridge. The fighting is intense, with famous clashes at the farmhouse of Hougoumont and La Haye Sainte. For hours, the French attack and the British Allied forces defend. Napoleon's men fight with incredible courage, and at several points, it seems like Wellington's line is about to break. But now the clock is against him. The delay in the morning means he has fewer hours of daylight to achieve a victory. And then, in the mid-afternoon, the thing he had gambled wouldn't happen happens. The first Prussian troops begin to appear on his right flank. It's no longer a theory, a possibility to be managed by a detached corps. It's a reality. Prussian soldiers are here, on the battlefield, opening fire. Suddenly, Napoleon is no longer fighting one enemy. He's fighting two from two different directions. His army is now stretched, forced to divide its attention and its strength. The strategic advantage he had in the morning has completely evaporated. He is now the one who is trapped. As the pressure mounts from two fronts, Napoleon becomes desperate. He has one last, legendary force in reserve, the Imperial Guard. These are his elite, his undefeated veterans, the men he only commits when victory is certain or the situation is dire. This is the definition of dire. In a final bid to shatter Wellington's center before the Prussian numbers become overwhelming, he commits his guard. They march up the muddy slope toward the British lines, the fate of the empire on their shoulders. And for the first time in their history, they are stopped, they falter, and then they break. The cry ripples through the French army. La Garde recule, the guard retreats. The psychological shock is devastating. If the invincible guard can be beaten, then all is lost. Panic spreads like fire, orders collapse, the disciplined French army dissolves. A strategic retreat becomes a chaotic, headlong rout. This is not a heroic last stand. It is the complete and utter exhaustion of a force that has been pushed beyond its limits, its fate sealed hours earlier by a simple delay. Within days of the defeat, Napoleon abdicates his throne for the second and final time. The dream is over. Within weeks, he surrenders to the British, hoping for political asylum. They have other plans. This time, there will be no comfortable exile on a nearby island. There is no escape. He is put on a ship and sent to St. Helena, a remote, wind-swept volcanic rock in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean, thousands of miles from anywhere. It is one of the most isolated places on Earth. He is a prisoner of the British, his life reduced to dictating his memoirs and staring out at the endless ocean. He would die there 6 years later, and he will never return. The man who had redrawn the map of Europe would end his days on a tiny speck of land, a king with no kingdom. In the end, Napoleon didn't lose his empire at Waterloo because he lacked courage, or because his soldiers were weak, or even because his opponent was better. He lost it because he waited. He waited for the ground to dry, while his enemy marched. He traded his most valuable asset time for a tactical advantage that never fully materialized. He forgot the most crucial lesson of his own career, that speed, initiative, and boldness are the keys to victory. At Waterloo, one delay was all history needed to close the book on the age of Napoleon. Thanks for watching. If you want to dive deeper into the pivotal moments that shaped our world, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll see you in the next one.